So here we have a 2003 GMC Sierra 2500 with a 6.6 liter LB7 Duramax in it. So I've been asked a bunch of times, what do I think of the Duramax? Now there's different styles of the Duramax. The one that's in the shop right now is an LB7, which is really the first generation of Duramax, and it had a few common problems. One being the injectors, and number two being head gaskets. Now, as far as reliability, and it comes down to maintenance again, it always does, I do think that they're a good engine, but I don't prefer them because when they break it does get expensive, and this video will show you exactly why. The Duramaxes have the exhaust running down the back passenger head, and the exhaust is extremely close to the head, and generally that's where the head gasket goes just because of the excessive heat buildup there. This truck had just about everything wrong with it, and it's not anybody's particular fault. Story from the beginning is he bought it with a larger fuel tank installed, so 200 liter tank. I don't know what that is in gallons, but whoever installed the fuel tank didn't remove one of the bungs off of the fuel lines, basically cut that little plastic line, and that little circle of plastic got jammed in a line somewhere and was restricting fuel flow. Truck wasn't running right. It originally came out of Alberta, made its way to Ontario, which is kind of like driving from California to New York. It's a long trip, and as soon as he would hit over 100 kilometers an hour, the truck would start to bog and kick and buck and starve for fuel. Brought it to a shop who misdiagnosed it. They replaced the injectors unnecessarily and then sent them on his way again. It was fine for a little while, and then it started doing it again, probably because that bung moved into a different spot. Brought it to another shop who diagnosed it as the injection pump, replaced the injection pump, still didn't fix the problem, then put an auxiliary fuel tank on it and figured out that it was not the engine itself, it was the delivery system. So they in turn found the bung in the line, cleaned it out, on his way he goes. But that did cost quite a bit between injectors and fuel pump and whatever else. It's got a tuner on it, and it is very impressive. With the tuner on it, you're able to make tons of power in it. But think of it as buying a wheelbarrow that has the recommendation of 10 psi in the tire. You can carry 100 pounds in that wheelbarrow. Well, if you figure out that you can add 30 pounds to that tire, now you can put 300 pounds in the wheelbarrow. Yeah, you can get away with it for a while, but that wheelbarrow is going to break a lot quicker than if you just left it as recommended, and that's what a tuner does in this scenario. It really stressed the engine. It did not have studs put in it. It was still the regular bolts. With the head gaskets being prone to breaking, it is just a ticking time bomb. Now tuners do, if you behave with the tuner, you can put an economy tune on it and you can actually increase your mileage. Now I made a video on, is a tuner worth it? I'm saying it as a mechanic's point of view because when I got these heads machined, the machinist looks at me and says, is there a tuner on it? I have to say, yes, there is. He says, no warranty on any of the work. One, it decreases your resale value. I wouldn't recommend buying somebody else's truck that has a tuner on it because you don't know what they've actually done to it. It does have a memory, you can check that, but is it the original tuner? You never know. Now this particular engine, when we tore it down, you can just replace the head gaskets if you're in your own garage. I don't replace any head gaskets without sending the head out to get checked to make sure that it's level and planed. And the reason for that is I've seen too many returns on head jobs where the head is warped or the block is damaged, and replacing the head gaskets is just a temporary fix. Now Duramax was first of its kind with common rail injection and aluminum heads. Now they generally don't have a problem with the aluminum heads, but I do believe that a tuner will stress the heads more than no tuner, and I say that because when these heads were sent out, they were warped about 14 thou. You can machine about 4 or 5 thou off the Duramax heads, but without getting into any major issues. But any more than that, you risk the heads and the valves actually coming down closer to the pistons, and you risk the valves hitting the pistons. So at 14 thou, all the valves had to be ground down too. The seats had to be ground so the valves are farther in the head, so that the valves had zero risk of hitting the pistons. Once you get the wiring out of the way, it's a lot less daunting. Basically, it's just an engine. We'll get rid of the front covers here, get rid of the turbo, and then we can start looking at the fuel management system, and then get ready to pull the valve covers off. It's just that easy. So we got the valve cover off, and first, well, there's one injector. Doesn't look that great. And there's the other injector. That looks terrible. Probably wondering why it's running like a dog. And then there's another injector. I already wiped that, looking at it, thinking what the hell is that? But just moisture, poor maintenance. See all the gunk. Yeah, it doesn't work so well on the injectors. Guys, you gotta change your fuel filters. It's #1 cheapest thing to save a giant headache. Now, these injectors were dirty. I sent them out to get tested, put in a machine that Bosch actually designed to test their own Bosch injectors. And what it does is check for internal leaks, spray pattern, leak down. What it doesn't see is the external leak, and that's up to the tester to look visually and see whether the injectors are leaking or not. All 8 of these injectors, even though they only had about 40,000 kilometers on it, were leaking in between the electric solenoid and the injector itself. And that's because somebody, I would think, while they were diagnosing the truck not running properly, disconnected the fuel pressure line sensor and made the injectors go to full pressure, which is the 22,000 psi, and that was too much for those injectors, and they started leaking. Still would have ran fine, but every minute of that truck running, each injector would leak 2 drops of diesel fuel into the engine oil. And pretty well got her tore down now. You can just leave the turbo alone and just take the exhaust manifolds off at the back, and then off at the side there. This last head bolt here, you can't really get out that nice, so you can just zip tie it to, you can see that there, just zip tie it to a valve spring, keep it up, and then it'll be easy to take out. And then up and out she comes. So you can leave your manifolds on, they'll fit on there. Can't really get at the bolt at the back with the turbo in the way, and this front bracket you just tilt forward, don't unhook any power steering lines, and then your steering shaft, just disconnect it right there and lift it up on it, drop it down. You got lots of room. So yeah, here we go. You see the coolant #4 at the back there, or right, whatever that is, and definitely the head gasket in the back corner. And you can see where the gasket split apart too. So we'll get the head sent out, get them checked, planed, and then we can start putting stuff back together again. So just that simple. Here we go. So the biggest thing when you're working on Duramax is take your time taking it apart, and take some pictures while you're taking it apart. You got your phone, take it out, take some pictures, take some video, walk around. Where does this bracket go? Where did that ground come from? I did a time lapse, more or less, just to show you guys, if you guys are kind of stuck wondering where something goes or where something fit or exactly how I did it. I hope this video really helps you out. Go online, get some torque specs. You know it's a good write-up when there's 150 different torque specs for everything that you unbolt from that engine. And remember that everything has a memory, so don't disturb it more than you have to. Take it off, lay it to the side, and take your time when you're taking it apart to label a few things. If they're long wires that don't really go in a group, just mark those so you remember, okay, that came off the intake, okay, that went on the glow plugs, routed around the front right passenger head. Things like that will really help you. I can't really make an entire video on start to finish because it will be a 20-hour job. There is a lot involved to this, but take your time. If you're stuck in a certain spot, just pause the time lapse, and hopefully that will help you guys out. Here we go. So to bleed the cooling system, just pull this little plug out of the top of the thermostat housing and fill your reservoir until the coolant comes out. If it doesn't, then just take a little bit of air pressure in a rag, not much, couple pounds, just to push it through, and until you start seeing coolant come out of there. To bleed the fuel system, this is a little pump on the top of the filter housing here, and then there's a little plastic screw there 13 mil, I believe. Crack that loose and then just pump away until you see fuel, and then keep pumping until it's hard. Crank it for about 5-10 seconds, then pump it again, crank it another 5-10 seconds. It should start after that. So here we go. So would I buy a Duramax? Yeah, I think so. I think it would be really cool to, if the budgets ever get big enough that we can build some really cool builds. I'd love to put a Duramax in an old truck or something rat roddy or even an old muscle car. I'm up for that. Don't get deterred by this video from buying one. Just know that when things break, they do get expensive. I'll still be a 12 valve Cummins guy just because of the simplicity and the ease of working on it. It doesn't get any better than keeping it simple and mechanical. So this is first generation Duramax, and it's got enough of its own issues. If you're getting into emission stuff, you're into a whole other can of worms. You're looking into afterburners, DPF, EGRs, all more things that can hurt your wallet. I would recommend a Duramax. Know what you're getting into, do your homework when you are buying one. But I'm actually looking forward to being able to install something like this into something cool. So stick around. Hopefully we get another Duramax in here to convert into something. But for that job, it's generally pretty simple engine once you get over the actual fear of getting into it because it looks so daunting with all the crap under the hood. But good engine, tunable. We're gonna have some fun with it eventually, I'm sure. So stick around. Hopefully we can throw a Dirty Max into something old and dirty. Here we go. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe because you never know what you're going to see next week on DeBoss Garage. If you like what you see, there's a lot of stuff happening to help support the channel. And remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich.